You have $3,000 worth of freeze-dried food in your basement, a water filtration system that could purify a swimming pool, enough batteries to power a small village. And you know what? You're still going to die in the first month. Because here's the thing most people don't realize. Gear without capability is just expensive decoration. You can't buy your way out of incompetence. Let's be real for a minute. When society collapses, it's not going to be a camping trip with zombies. It's going to be a brutally efficient sorting mechanism that separates people who can actually do things from people who own things. The skills that matter aren't the ones you see in movies. They're the boring, methodical, psychologically exhausting capabilities that you practice until they're muscle memory. Sounds reasonable, until you realize that most of your survival plan depends on things working exactly as advertised, exactly when you need them, with zero stress and perfect conditions. Reality doesn't give a damn about your Amazon reviews. If you're here because you actually want to survive, not just collect gear and feel prepared, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're building a community of people who know the difference between a plan and a fantasy. Here's what we're doing today. We're breaking down the 10 skills that actually determine survival outcomes. Not the sexy stuff, not the tactical operator nonsense. The skills that, when the grid goes down and your neighborhood becomes unrecognizable, will be the difference between you adapting and you becoming a cautionary tale that someone else tells around a fire. No plot armor, no respawn button, no tutorial level. Just you, your capabilities, and a world that doesn't care about your intentions. Skill 1. Reading human behavior under stress. You know what kills more people than hunger, thirst, or exposure? Other people, and not in the way you think. Most preppers fantasize about defending their bunker from marauding hordes. The real threat is Susan from 3 houses down, who's been your neighbor for 6 years and is now standing at your door with her 2 kids, asking if you have any food to spare. You think you'll say no. You're thinking about your own family, your own supplies. That's rational. But Susan's kids are crying. She's not threatening you, she's begging. Her husband died in the first week. She's desperate, not dangerous. Do you help her? Do you turn her away? Do you lie and say you have nothing? Here's what you're missing. Whatever you decide in that moment creates consequences. Turn her away, and you've made an enemy who knows where you live and what you have. Help her, and you've just advertised that you're the place to come when things get bad. And every single person on your block is watching through their curtains, learning the same lesson. The skill isn't just reading whether someone's a threat. It's reading the second-order effects of human desperation. It's recognizing when someone's 3 days from snapping, when a crowd's fear is about to flip to rage, when cooperation is genuine versus when it's a setup. Most people can't do this. They rely on social norms that no longer exist. They assume people will act rationally when people are terrified. That confidence you're feeling right now, that belief that you'd spot the danger, that's mistake number 1. You're calibrated for a world with consequences, laws, and social pressure. That world is gone. Skill 2. Making fire in conditions that hate you. Everyone says they can make fire. You've done it camping. You've got a lighter, matches, maybe even a fancy ferro rod. Great. Now do it in the rain. Do it when your hands are shaking from cold and you haven't eaten in 2 days. Do it when the only dry material is inside a rotted log and you're working with a dull knife because your good one broke yesterday. Fire isn't just warmth. It's water purification. It's morale. It's the psychological anchor that keeps your brain from sliding into hypothermic confusion. And the difference between someone who can make fire and someone who can reliably produce flame in adverse conditions is about 200 failed attempts and the humility to practice when it's uncomfortable. The practical skill is this: understanding fuel, oxygen, and heat as a system you can manipulate, not a recipe you follow. Knowing which wood types catch from spark. How to process wet material to access dry interior. How to build a sustainable fire lay that doesn't require constant feeding when you need to sleep. You don't need to be a bushcraft wizard. You need to have done it enough times badly that you've internalized what actually works versus what looks cool on YouTube. Skill 3. Water procurement beyond boiling. You know the rule. Don't drink untreated water. Boil it, filter it, purify it. Solid advice. Now tell me what you do when you don't have fuel for fire, your filter is clogged, and your purification tablets ran out last week. You've got about 3 days before dehydration starts making decisions for you. The skill is understanding water's actual risks versus perceived ones, knowing which water sources are lower risk, understanding that giardia takes a week to make you sick, and if you're going to die of dehydration in 3 days, maybe you drink the questionable creek water and deal with intestinal problems later. It's knowing how to construct a solar still that actually produces usable amounts, how to recognize plants that store water, how to collect dew, how to dig for water in dry riverbeds. Not because these are efficient methods, they're not, but because when efficient methods fail, you need to know the inefficient ones that still work. Most people's water plan is, I have a filter. Great. Filters clog, ceramics crack, straws get lost. What's your plan when the plan fails? Skill 4. Moving tactically through hostile space. You're not a Navy SEAL. You're not going to clear buildings or conduct reconnaissance. But you do need to understand that movement creates sound. Sound creates attention, and attention gets you killed. The skill is situational awareness that's become automatic. Scanning rooflines before crossing intersections, recognizing choke points, understanding sight lines and dead space, knowing that taking the main road saves 20 minutes but exposes you to observation for 2 miles, versus the alley route that's slower but keeps you invisible. It's hearing the difference between wind moving debris and a person trying to move quietly. It's recognizing when birds go silent, when dogs in the neighborhood suddenly all start barking at the same time. This isn't paranoia, it's calibration. You're learning to read an environment that's actively trying to kill you through 1,000 small oversights. You sprint across open ground, and someone 3 blocks away hears your footfalls. You use a flashlight at night and become a beacon. You cough at the wrong moment and compromise 6 hours of careful approach. The fix is boring, methodical, and effective. You practice moving through familiar spaces as if they're hostile. You learn what sounds you make without realizing it. You develop the habit of stopping, listening, and observing before every transition. Most people don't have this skill because modern life punishes it. We're optimized for efficiency, not discretion. That optimization is going to get you spotted, tracked, and neutralized by someone who learned to move like a ghost. Skill 5. First aid when everything's going wrong. You've got a first aid kit. Maybe you even took a CPR class once. Fantastic. Now apply a tourniquet to yourself with one hand while someone's screaming 6 feet away, and you're in a basement with no light, and your brain is flooded with adrenaline. First aid isn't about knowing the steps. It's about executing them when your body is actively trying to prevent you from thinking clearly. It's about making decisions with incomplete information under time pressure, while people you care about might die based on what you do in the next 60 seconds. The skill is stress inoculation. You've practiced enough that your hands remember the sequence when your brain can't. You know what arterial bleeding looks like versus venous. You understand that most life-threatening injuries have a golden hour that's actually a golden 15 minutes. You've internalized that pain management matters because someone screaming gives away your position. It's knowing when to evacuate versus when to stabilize, how to improvise when you don't have the right supplies. That keeping someone alive for 3 days with a chest wound and no hospital access requires more than medical knowledge. It requires will, creativity, and the ability to lie convincingly to someone who's terrified. Most people freeze in medical emergencies even with all the right equipment. Under apocalyptic conditions with none of the right equipment and all the wrong circumstances, they collapse into useless panic. You need to be the person who doesn't. Skill 6. Tool improvisation and repair. Your multi-tool breaks, your knife blade snaps, your backpack strap tears, your shelter develops a leak, your water container cracks, and you know what you can't do. Order a replacement on Amazon. The skill is understanding materials, leverage, and problem-solving at a fundamental level. Knowing that a broken shovel handle can become a fighting stick or a splint, that paracord unravels into fishing line, that duct tape's adhesive fails when wet, but can be heat-activated with friction. It's seeing every object as a collection of useful properties, not a single-purpose item. That a car battery isn't just power. It's a source of acid, lead, plastic, and metal parts. That a shopping cart is mobile storage, barrier material, and a frame for shelter construction. You don't need to be a master craftsman. You need to have failed enough times at improvising solutions that you've developed the mental flexibility to see alternatives. Most people's problem-solving capability is completely dependent on having the right tool for the job. When the tools are gone, their capability evaporates. Skill 7. Conflict de-escalation without looking weak. Violence is expensive. It costs calories, creates noise, leaves you vulnerable, and generates enemies. But backing down from every confrontation marks you as an easy target. The skill is reading confrontations accurately and knowing which ones you can talk your way out of versus which ones require decisive action. It's understanding that most conflicts are about fear and scarcity, not actual malice. That a lot of aggressive posturing is people testing boundaries, not committing to violence. It's knowing how to project calm authority without challenge, how to give someone a face-saving exit, how to make cooperation look like their idea, how to recognize when words have stopped mattering and action is required, then switching modes without hesitation. Most people oscillate between doormat and aggressive with nothing in between. They either let themselves be exploited or escalate situations that could have been resolved. The middle ground, controlled, assertive but not threatening, is a learned skill that requires reading social dynamics most people don't even notice. Skill 8. Resource allocation when there's no resupply. You have a month's worth of food. Great. Do you eat normally for 30 days, then starve? Do you ration it to last 60 days and spend those 60 days too calorie deficient to function? Do you eat well now while you have the energy to find more food? The skill is understanding that survival is math and the equation changes based on circumstances. Sometimes you eat the extra calories because you need strength for a critical task. Sometimes you accept hunger because preserving supplies matters more than comfort. It's knowing that sharing resources can build alliances that protect you, or it can mark you as a target. That hoarding everything looks smart until someone decides to take it by force. That giving too much away leaves you vulnerable. The math isn't just calories and water. It's ammunition, medicine, fuel, batteries, and the thousand small consumables that modern life made invisible. Most people have no concept of consumption rates because they never had to track them. You need to have internalized the math so completely that every decision factors in depletion rates automatically. Skill 9. Mental resilience when everything's terrible. You're cold, hungry, scared, and exhausted. The person you love most is sick. Your plan failed. Your supplies are running low, and you need to make a critical decision in the next 10 minutes. The skill isn't being tough. It's having systems that keep your brain functional when your emotions want to shut down. It's recognizing the signs of decision fatigue. Understanding that fear and hunger and sleep deprivation create cognitive distortions that feel like accurate assessments, but are actually just your brain misfiring. It's having practiced enough discomfort that you know the difference between "I can't continue" and "I don't want to continue," between rational concern and catastrophizing, between being cautious and being paralyzed. Most people's mental resilience is completely untested. They've never pushed through real adversity. The first time they're truly uncomfortable, truly scared, truly uncertain, they fold. You need to have built the psychological calluses before they're required. Skill 10. Adaptive decision-making under uncertainty. You don't know if the bridge is safe. You don't know if that smoke is a forest fire or someone's campsite. You don't know if that person approaching is friendly or scouting for a group. And you need to decide: move forward, hold position, or retreat. The skill is making the best decision possible with incomplete information, then adjusting when new data arrives. It's not being so committed to a plan that you ignore evidence it's failing. It's not being so flexible that you constantly second-guess yourself into paralysis. It's understanding that the right decision 6 hours ago might be the wrong decision now. That changing circumstances require changing strategies. That admitting you were wrong and pivoting is strength, not weakness. Most people either freeze in uncertainty or commit to bad plans out of ego. They can't handle ambiguity. They need clear right and wrong answers in a situation that only offers probabilities and trade-offs. You need to be comfortable operating in the gray area, where every choice has costs and benefits, and the best you can do is minimize regret. Here's the reality check you need to hear. If you have fewer than 6 of these skills at a functional level, not theoretical, not I could probably do that, but actually tested under stress, your survival odds in a prolonged collapse are grim. Long-term survival doesn't come from gear or knowledge. It comes from capabilities you've internalized through repetitive failure until they're automatic. The practical advice is simple but not easy. You pick one skill. You practice it until it's uncomfortable. You fail at it repeatedly until failure teaches you what success requires. Then you pick another one. You don't need all 10 tomorrow. You need to be honest about which ones you're actually weak in, then systematically address those weaknesses. Most people can't handle that honesty. They'd rather buy another piece of gear that makes them feel prepared than spend a weekend getting cold and hungry and learning what their actual limits are. All right, your turn. How many of these 10 skills do you actually have? Not I've read about it or I could figure it out. Actually tested, actually functional, actually reliable under pressure. Be honest with yourself, because reality will be. Drop your honest count in the comments. Tell me which skills you're weakest in and which ones you've actually tested. Let's talk strategy, not fantasy. If this kind of tactical reality check is your thing, subscribe and hit that notification bell. We're breaking down the real survival math, not the feel-good prepper porn. Remember, gear is temporary, skills are permanent. And the best time to realize you can't do something is right now, when there's still time to learn.